I'm a cheerful person who always believes in the power of creativity. But sometimes, I have to pause for a second and ask myself, wait, why did we think that was a good idea back then? Human history is basically one endless journey of discovery. But every now and then we accidentally take a wrong turn and create some truly unbelievable plot twists. From nuclear explosions that shook entire continents to massive dams that literally changed the Earth's rotation, we've come a long way when it comes to testing the limits of nature. Are you ready to see the list of the 6 worst man-made disasters in history? Buckle up, because the level of mind-blowing only gets crazier with each one. Number 6. The environmental impact of the Three Gorges Dam in China. Completed in 2006 after more than a decade of non-stop construction, this became the absolute main character of the hydroelectric world, with a massive capacity of 22,500 megawatts. Sounds pretty awesome, right? Like having an unlimited battery powering every electronic device in your house. But what was the price of all that greatness? Let me tell you, it forced more than 1.3 million people to leave homes their families had lived in for centuries. Imagine the entire population of a major city like Dallas suddenly being told to pack up and move overnight. That kind of disruption is hard to even comprehend, and that wasn't the end of it. The dam's enormous reservoir submerged more than 1,200 priceless archaeological sites, almost like burning down a massive library of human history with no backup copy anywhere. In fact, the weight of that enormous mass of water was so massive that many believe it increased seismic activity in the region and even altered the flow of the Yangtze River, causing unique species like the Chinese paddlefish to disappear into legend. Can you believe that a man-made structure could literally shake the Earth's geological foundation? I genuinely admire the engineering behind it, but at the same time, it's hard not to feel sad about everything that was lost. Number 5. The Deepwater Horizon oil spill on April 20, 2010 in the Gulf of Mexico. This was basically the biggest workplace accident in the history of the American oil industry. It all started with an explosion on a drilling rig operated by BP, killing 11 workers and releasing nearly 800 million liters of crude oil into the ocean over 87 straight days. To put the scale into perspective, that amount of oil could fill more than 300 Olympic-sized swimming pools, turning clear blue water into a literal Black Sea. Thousands of miles of coastline and coastal ecosystems were devastated, creating an unimaginable nightmare for seabirds and sea otters. This was the moment nature pulled the ultimate Uno reverse card on the oil industry's safety systems. I honestly don't understand how they allowed the leak to continue for that long. The engineers must have been working around the clock in full panic mode, literally sweating bullets. The disaster forced the United States to completely overhaul its offshore drilling regulations. So what's the lesson here? Never mess with deep ocean pressure unless you're truly prepared for it. Number 4. Amazon deforestation, a disaster that didn't happen in a single day, but has unfolded over decades. The Amazon is often called the lungs of the earth because of its incredible ability to absorb carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. But since the 1980s, humanity has cleared more than 800,000 square kilometers of rainforest, an area larger than the entire states of Texas and Oklahoma combined. The main reason? Expanding cattle ranches and soybean farming to satisfy massive global demand. Every time a section of forest disappears, it's not just trees that are lost. One of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet, along with countless indigenous communities, is pushed closer to collapse. I bet you're probably thinking, so, what are we supposed to breathe? And honestly, that's one of the biggest questions humanity is facing right now. Just imagine a future where the Amazon turns into dry grassland. That's definitely a reality none of us want to witness. Would you be willing to change even a small part of your lifestyle to help these lungs catch a breath? Number 3. The Exxon Valdez oil spill on March 24, 1989 in Prince William Sound, Alaska. A massive oil tanker struck Bly Reef and leaked more than 200 million liters of crude oil. Even though the amount was smaller than the Deepwater Horizon disaster, the impact was far more devastating because it happened in the untouched waters of Alaska. Thick oil covered the coastline, killing around 250,000 seabirds along with thousands of sea otters. The cleanup effort cost billions of dollars and lasted for years, yet nature's recovery was still painfully slow. This disaster became a tragic plot twist in American environmental history, eventually leading to the Oil Pollution Act of 1990. It's honestly unbelievable how one small navigation mistake could create consequences that lasted for decades. Number 2. The Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan began on March 11, 2011. As I mentioned earlier, this was the worst possible combination imaginable. A 9.0 magnitude earthquake followed by a catastrophic tsunami. The sheer force of nature completely knocked out the cooling systems at the Fukushima Daiichi plant, leading to core meltdowns in 3 reactors. The images of engineers and emergency crews racing against time inside dangerously radioactive zones are genuinely unforgettable and deeply admirable. This disaster became a costly lesson about building advanced technological infrastructure in areas vulnerable to natural disasters. Don't you think the discipline and resilience people showed during this catastrophe are truly something worth learning from? Number 1, and finally, the king of man-made disasters, Chernobyl, on April 26, 1986. It all began during a safety test at reactor No. 4, but instead of proving the system worked, it triggered a catastrophic explosion that spread radioactive clouds across Europe. The disaster was caused by a perfect combo of technical flaws, weak safety procedures, and a deeply dangerous culture of secrecy. The once thriving city of Pripyat suddenly became a permanent exclusion zone, a place now ruled only by wildlife and crumbling buildings. Chernobyl wasn't just a disaster, it became the loudest warning imaginable about the price of secrecy and the dangers of careless nuclear management. But you know what? Even among the ruins, nature has slowly begun healing itself in remarkable ways. And maybe that's the brightest ray of hope to emerge from such a tragedy. After seeing these 6 massive oops moments, do you appreciate green forests and clean oceans a little more now? If you suddenly became a billionaire tomorrow, would you build some gigantic project that changes the world map? Or spend the money buying a ridiculous amount of cookies to help save polar bears instead? Share your own Save the World plan down below. I'm honestly really curious to hear it. And that's the end of today's story. Omam, the cheerful guy, now has to go check on the tiny national park growing on his balcony. I recently bought a cactus because people said it's basically the hardest plant in the world to kill, but somehow it already looks a little depressed. Maybe I accidentally gave it too much water because I was worried it might get thirsty. Anyway, now I'm rambling again. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next time.